What's happening, y'all? Dom here from Lensprotogo and Lens Rentals. Welcome back to the channel. So last week, in case you missed it, I did a whole entire video with this guy hanging out in the frame. Though for that entire video, I didn't even reference it once. Why? To build a sense of suspense, of course, but also kind of realizing that I wanted to take a whole video just to talk about how neat this thing is. And so you're like, what is that super special thing that had to wait an entire week to get its own video? That would be the Tilta Mirage matte box. This is a matte box with a built-in motorized Very-ND filter, controlled completely wirelessly with this little hand unit right here. Now, this is awesome. I've never seen a matte box like this. This is a totally new thing. Shh. It's not that loud when you use it. It's a really neat system, and I didn't want to just brush by that in last week's matte box video. And honestly, last week when I took this thing out of the box, I was just like filled with surprise after surprise, which is also exactly why I wanted to do this video. So first, I suppose we should check out everything that comes in this Mirage kit. So the main body of the matte box here, which sort of splits into two parts. Basically, one is the main part. That's like the circular filter housing made of a nice lightweight composite metal. And then on the other side is this nice soft felt material on the outside face. Then this part snaps onto it, which is kind of like the matte box part of the deal. This has a bit more give to it. It's like halfway between plastic and rubber kind of. And this part of the matte box is where any rectangular cine filters are going to go. Gonna pull back that little knob there on the side. Right, so those two main parts pretty much comprise like the main build. Now we are ready to get some filters involved. So in this kit, it actually includes an empty filter tray to, I'm pretty sure, drop your own 95mm filter in. It just has to be thin enough. Otherwise, this blank tray, I suppose, is just good to just like occupy that little slot that's left in there if it was empty. If you rent it from us, it'll come in this neat 3D printed sleeve for that too, by the way. But the real star of the show is this guy right here. This is that same exact thing pretty much, but with a built-in circular variable ND filter in there. It goes from 0.3 to 2.7 stops of ND, and you could manually operate that by hand if you want, but why in the world would you do that when you could use this thing right here? This is the wireless motor for the Mirage. That's going to fit snugly right in that spot where that dial is. You can see how it's kind of form-fitted for that. Two of these little seated-in screws later, and that motor is now a part of this matte box. Yes, that's going to add a little bit of size to the profile of this matte box, but honestly, I think Tilta did a great job with keeping everything nice and minimal and streamlined here. Now, this thing that looks like a lighter is actually going to be the battery cartridge for the motor. That's going to slide right in the front face of the motor via a little locking dovetail. Boom. And that's going to give you battery access from the side there if you needed to do a quick swap there. Pretty accessible. But that motor is nothing. I mean, useless. I mean, a waste of space without its counterpart here, the motor control unit. This is a small hand module with this little grippy hand wheel, connects wirelessly to the Mirage motor and can be mounted in a lot of different ways. So the back side of this guy is a standard sized locking dovetail, but out of the box, it's actually going to come with this little slide in dovetail like adapter piece there with two 1/4-20 threads slotted in there. So all of this pretty much comprises like the main kit that you're getting from the Mirage here, but a couple more things included in this kit that I want to go over. Next, you get this 15mm rails adapter. I like that this is one knob to thread in there with two locking pins. That makes it pretty simple. Though if you aren't mounting this matte box on rails, your other options are basically clamping onto the lens, which luckily for you, Tilta has a pretty well thought out system for dealing with that. So out of the box with no adapters, the opening of the Mirage here fits the 95mm outside barrel diameter standard for a lot of cine lenses. So if you're rocking that 95mm diameter, that'll just pop right on there. But for anything smaller than that, you're going to be relying on these oh yeah, one's on the camera, on these 4 different sizes of step-up rings that they put in this kit. These are going to screw onto the front filter of your lens and basically extend that diameter to that 95mm size. This kit's going to give you 67, 72, 77, and 82mm size. And side note, I just love that it says suitable for 82mm or whatever. Like it's suitable. Like it's not the best thing ever. It'll do. That's going to bring the size up so I can can do the clamp on action right there. One knob away, and then we're right on there. So that's insanely easy setup. Way better than getting rails on this system just to get a matte box on there. Love the option just to be able to clamp on there. And then finally for this kit, last couple things, we're going to get a sun hood that's going to mount onto the matte box part of this build. Again, just this one thread right here. Then of course your two batteries, one for the motor and one for the control unit, and a single slot battery charger. This is nice and small and neat, but I actually maybe would have preferred a dual charger. No matter really. And finally, a 2.5mm hex driver for getting that motor on, and boom, that's the kit. And just like side note, I don't know, I'm having too much fun just operating this dial like off of the camera. I just love having this little window that I can make darker or lighter, or just like close people off from. Bye. And also, just actually kind of thought of this right now, this thing is totally silent. I mean, like a little bit of motor noise right there, but probably nothing any mic is gonna pick up. So that's everything that comes in the kit. And now you might be asking, Dom, you said something really surprised you when you took this thing out of the box, but all that seemed pretty straightforward. Like, what could have surprised you so much? Honestly, it was the size. This is maybe just like poor research going into this thing, but I was totally deceived at the picture of this thing online. I was expecting this guy to be like pretty much right around the same size as like this wooden camera UMB, but like an electronic version of this thing. And I was just thinking like, that thing's gonna be a beast when I get it in here. And then I take it out of the box and like, this is it. So not disappointed by that by any means, just wasn't what I expected at all. And also that minimal slim build totally gives way for a use function of this thing that I had not even considered before I took this thing out of the box. So when I was first building this thing up, just like testing it out, this is kind of like the workflow I was envisioning. Just keep it really neat and handheld. So I put like a little bottom piece of a cage on this S5 II right here with that vertical mounting rod. That allowed me to put the control wheel like right here on the left side by the inputs and outputs. So it's not the most graceful thing ever, but now I'm gripping the camera on the right here. Nothing is obstructed. If I need to operate that ND, I have this awesome dial right here. So I'm using this like this for a while and I'm thinking, sweet, that's pretty awesome. But now my mind is going. I'm realizing that this thing is actually a lot smaller than I thought and lighter. I realized I could totally fly this entire rig on a gimbal. So now I'm gonna pop that vertical rail cage thing off, put my gimbal plate on there. I made sure to grab a gimbal with a decent amount of payload and wouldn't give me any clearance problems. Got this RS3 Pro. And through the magic of YouTube, this should be pretty much perfectly balanced already. Wow, what luck do I have? And now, given that the Ronin already uses these little dovetails on the side for its accessories, I'm just gonna pop this control unit onto the left side again, pop my Mirage motor on, gimbal on, camera on. That's probably pretty important. Works totally fine. Clearance issues, no problem. My gimbal's not mad at me, which is always good. Oh, okay. All right, there's actually one problem. Can't mount that control wheel actually too high up on that dovetail. Like I said, no clearance issues. Anyways, now I got the Mirage clamped onto the end of the lens. No rails necessary there. I've got my variable ND control right here on the side of the gimbal. And I feel like this whole entire system right here, all the weight is coming from the camera and gimbal here. Totally sweet use factor for this Mirage that I haven't even considered. Now I'm thinking, how would you utilize that like remote control wireless scenario? Duh, a car rig. This thing is mounted on the outside of a car. Shock gets a little hot, ND up. We're passing through a tunnel, ND all the way off. Totally remote from the camera. That is so cool. So I guess before I cut you loose here, I'll just cover like one or two things I thought were a little bit of a hiccup in the design here. So the mounting options for this control wheel right here were pretty neat. I would have liked to see like at least one 1/4-20 on the bottom of this thing, or at least try to get a female 1/4-20 thread here in this little dovetail attachment. The options for mounting this thing are good, but that would have like covered all of the bases right there. And my first couple attempts at getting this thing mounted onto the camera were weird. That could have been remedied by just including a female 1/4-20 somewhere on this thing. Next, when I saw the up and down arrows on the Mirage motor, first thing I thought of was that those would have been programmed to do a full hard stop like upon a click or whatever. I understand that's, you know, an extra leap of programming there. Maybe it would have been hard to execute, but I took one look at that thing and it's like, oh cool, you can program ND stops into those little clicks, but that's really just all for navigating the menu on this thing. Secondly, or third, I forget which complaint I'm on. I just have so dang many. No, I'm just kidding. I saw that USB-C port right there and I thought I could maybe run a short cord and just just power that motor via the power from the Ronin, but I do not think that that's the case. I think it needs the battery in there. Now, like, the sub question of that is, will USB power supplement that battery power if you did decide to do that USB connection? As far as I can tell, I tried that and I didn't really get any indicator on the screen there that that was happening. So maybe let me know in the comment section if you happen to know that that feature works on this thing. But I mean, yeah, even just expressing those, I feel like is like kind of unfair. I feel like that's really splitting hairs. Those are really the only complaints I could take out of this Mirage system. It is honestly such a cool concept for a matte box, and I could see somebody utilizing this in like 10 separate ways. So as always, if you have any questions about this Tilta Mirage system, anything that came in this kit, holler at me in the comment section. And especially if you have any information on that pass-through power sort of thing I brought up, definitely pop a comment in the comment section down there so I can be informed, which, believe it or not, is a big part of making these videos. Also, if you happen to like this video, you can show that affection by just giving your computer screen a big smooch right now. But if you don't want to deal with rubbing that smudge out, you could also just hit that thumbs up button that's underneath this video. But if you didn't do any of that, you could subscribe to the channel. Over 100,000 of you have already decided that you want to see this content that we roll out every single week. If you have already subscribed, you're super cool. Everybody knows it. And you could also hit that little bell button that shows up next to the subscribe button once you do so. That little bell button will keep you notified whenever we post new content. So that's gonna do it for this video, folks. I have one more question for you before we leave. Was that entire video real, or was it just a mirage? No, it was definitely real, and you should hit that subscribe button. Okay, peace.